kids. It's obvious. The acronym that stands for the 7 critical issues that affect Delaware teens. And that being, thank you, obesity, bullying, violence, making intelligent decisions, opioid use, underage drinking, and suicide. This campaign was designed to address the issues with our teenagers and our pre-teenagers to create an awareness of these problems and offer help and advice to address the issues. We reached out to the community in both the schools and the general public, and we're continuing this campaign as we go along here. We'd like to provide a service and a resource for our community through the Medical Society of Delaware. So I thank you again for attending this important lecture. And tonight, our lecture will be entitled Level Up Your EQ, Smart Strategies for Conflict Resolution and Violence Prevention. And we hope that you will continue to join us every Wednesday evenings for these series in March. Our guest speaker tonight, I'm thrilled to talk about her. Her name is Ty Randolph. She is the Youth Program and Development Specialist and Program Consultant. She is a dedicated youth development professional with extensive experience in violence prevention, emotional intelligence building, and conflict resolution for our adolescents. As a sought-after workshop presenter, Ty specializes in equipping teens, peers, and parents with practical strategies to navigate and resolve conflicts effectively. Holding the dual Bachelor of Arts degrees in sociology and psychology from Rowan University, Ty has devoted her career to youth advocacy, intervention programming, and curriculum development. Beyond her organizational leadership, Ty serves as a consultant and trainer for youth programs, equipping staff with effective engagement strategies. Ty's commitment to youth empowerment and social impact continues to shape the next generation through education, mentorship, and advocacy. We welcome Ty Randolph.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to be here today and to talk about emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and violence prevention and overall. So I'm just going to hop right in and get started. So as mentioned, this presentation is called Level Up Your EQ, Smart Strategies for Conflict Resolution and Violence Prevention. So here's the agenda. What we'll discuss today, we'll talk about the objectives, understanding violence and prevention strategies, building emotional intelligence, conflict resolution techniques, and then we'll have time for question and answers and closing reflections. So our objectives. So by the end of this session, participants will understand the root causes of teen violence and how to prevent it, learn strategies to build emotional intelligence for self-regulation and empathy, and develop practical conflict resolution skills for navigating interpersonal challenges. So this is just a quick question that if you would like, you can answer in the chat. What is one challenge that teens face in handling conflicts? And it could be a challenge that you believe. It doesn't have to be totally accurate. Just want to understand what we think our teens face today when they are handling conflicts. I'll give you like 60 seconds to do that if you can. All right, so I'm not seeing any answers, but I want to kind of spitball what I think. Okay, not being taken seriously or being labeled. Yes, that is a big challenge that teens face. Cyberbullying, yes, I agree with that as well. Hey, want to be heard? Yes, I agree with that also. I think that our teens, sometimes we forget that they are all humans as well, and they don't always have all the tools that we may have as adults to navigate difficulties and challenges. So all of the answers that were put in the chat, I agree with, and I think this is totally along the lines of what we're going to discuss today. So, understanding violence and prevention strategies. So the main thing about understanding violence is honestly understanding what is violence, right? So it is behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something, strength of emotion, or an unpleasant or destructive natural force, and the unlawful exercise of physical force or intimidation by the exhibition of such force. So we understand what violence is. So why does violence happen? Violence occurs due to a complex interplay of factors, including like biological predispositions, psychological influences, like lack of empathy or anger management issues, social conditions like poverty or inequality, exposure to violence in the environment, and sometimes the presence of mental health issues, all of which can contribute to aggressive behavior and the use of violence to resolve conflicts. So essentially, there's no single cause for violence, but there are multiple contributing factors. So that includes your environment. So social and economic disadvantage. Some people, if you are at a disadvantage, sometimes you can experience more anger than someone else that may not be. You may be exposed to more. Um, you may be exposed to more aggressive behaviors in your community and around your environment. Emotionals and emotional dysregulation, that is, in my opinion, one of the biggest one that contributes to factors in violence, because people get so built up sometimes and it's hard for them to regulate and bring themselves back to a point of clarity or understanding in order to make informed decisions on how they want to react to things. This also can be a part of a mental health condition, as I mentioned earlier. Some mental health conditions do cause some emotional dysregulation within an individual. I believe peer influence plays a contributing factor into violence as well. If someone around you, if you're upset and that person that you trust and you feel safe with encourages you to continue to be upset and start to show aggressive behaviors, that can be an influence. Media influence, if you are constantly on social media and all you ingesting is violence and aggressive behaviors, we tend to start to model those things that we feed into us. And even gang affiliation as well, that's a part of that peer influence that may contribute to becoming more violent. Trauma and triggers, this is also another big one I would like to highlight. Your childhood experience, if you were around an environment where you noticed a lot of violence or aggressive behavior from your parents, from your friends, from your family members. If something happened to you in your childhood and it triggers a specific response in you, that response may be violence. Any stressful situations, a part of emotional regulation is knowing how to manage your stress, and stress does contribute to violence as well. Most of the time, we see people struggle with power dynamics, and that's why they want to resort to violence, because they don't really know any other way to express themselves if they feel as though they're being disrespected or not being respected in general. Those contribute to the power dynamics that may contribute to violence happening. And then overall access to weapons. People, if they do have access to this, I'm not saying because you have access to this you will be violent, but if you do have access to this, that can be a way that you express your emotional dysregulation or your distress or whatever challenges that you are facing. So, and teen violence often starts from just misunderstandings, emotions, or just feeling unheard. That's where we typically see where, in my experience working with teens, that's where I typically see once we get down to a point where we're trying to find the root of the issue, it's mostly because they're feeling misunderstood, they're not feeling heard, similar to what we said in the chat, and they don't have the tools to regulate their emotions. Okay, so that's violence. And then we'll talk about a little bit about prevention. I love to give definitions so we know exactly what we're referring to when we speak of these terms. So prevention is the action of stopping something from happening or arising. Pretty straightforward right there. What prevention, we talked about violence before, and with the prevention, we can try to stop it before it happens. And how do we prevent that, right? How do we prevent violence? We can recognize the warning signs. So warning signs may look like they begin to isolate themselves. Their voice begins to get elevated. They start to show aggression, or they're up and down in mood swings. They're happy, and then they kind of snap out in a moment's notice. We want to also promote positive peer influence. So nurture friendships and relationships that lift you up. Again, as I mentioned earlier, when you are in a space where you may not be able to control your emotions, or you are frustrated, or you are stressed out, you want to have friends and people and a support system around you that will lift you up and that will encourage you to calm down and will encourage you to think about things and remind you of your goals and what you're trying to do in your life, and how a negative reaction to this conflict can ultimately affect that. Another big thing is creating safe spaces to talk. So safe communication spaces. So at home, at school, online, always having a safe space for yourself or your team to go and relax themselves and talk without judgment. And that's the biggest part about having a safe a safe space for a person in general. It doesn't matter old, young, rich or poor. You want a space where you don't have to be anyone but yourself. You don't have to feel judged by your feelings. You don't have to feel judged by your thoughts or your opinions. So it's very important to create safe communication spaces at the home, in the school, and online for yourselves and for your teens and anyone in your circle. All of these things are tools that anyone can use. So also developing conflict resolution skills and emotional intelligence help will prevent violence. And then modeling positive behavior, which is a big one. And I feel like when you practice it and when you show it consistently, just being positive and practicing the conflict resolution, practicing emotional intelligence, the students or the youth or whomever you are dealing with, they'll have more of a ability to interact with you positively because you're giving out, the positive behavior. You're showing peaceful behavior. So it's less likely to escalate into a state of violence if we're already being in a peaceful mindset and showing peaceful behavior in general. So just to sum all that up, preventing violence, things we can do on the individual level is recognizing warning signs, promoting your positive peer influences, creating safe communication spaces, and developing conflict resolution skills and emotional intelligence, and then modeling that positive behavior. So I talked a lot about emotional intelligence and how that is a key part of preventing violence. So we're going to talk more about building up emotional intelligence. So again, I'm a definitions girl, and there is the definition for emotional intelligence, also called EQ, similar to IQ, but it's just emotional. It's about recognizing and managing our emotions and understanding how others feel, and it helps us react in a smarter way. And it makes it really important to have, because in your decision making and your relationships, you want to have a level of emotional intelligence to be able to navigate those difficult conversations. So the actual dictionary definition for it is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So we know what emotional intelligence is, right? Why is it important? So it's important to develop the skills because when we recognize and manage our emotion, It gives us the ability to regulate what we are feeling, to clear our minds, to understand how others feel, which then will help us make smart decisions to react in a positive way in the face of conflicts or challenges we experience through life. So, to sum that up, why is it important? It enhances our relationships. You gain empathy, leading to stronger connections with your family, your friends, and romantic partners. You improve your communication. So, understanding emotion helps you communicate more effectively, reducing misunderstandings. You have self-awareness and regulation, and that help manages your response and navigate difficult situations effectively. Mental health regulation, managing emotions help reduce anxiety and stress, which are known triggers for an imbalanced mental health. And motivation and resilience. So understanding how your emotions influence your action, it helps you stay motivated and resilient in the face of challenges. So if you know you're self-aware, you have an emotional intelligence, and I know, okay, when I am really excited, um, I tend to get 4 or 5 things done on my task list. But when I'm not as excited, or if I'm feeling more frustrated that day, I'm less likely to get tasks done. But these tasks are important. And because I know that I'm feeling frustrated, now I can do the work to bring myself up out of that frustration in order to continue to reach my goals and go after what it is that I'm trying to do for myself, for my family, for my community in general. So we talked about emotional intelligence, why it's important, what it means. So there are core skills for emotional intelligence. So it's self-awareness, so knowing what you feel and why. Um, and how you build self-awareness is by practicing mindfulness, by paying attention to your thoughts and feelings without judgment, actively seeking feedback from others to understand how others perceive you. That's very important because we don't always see, you're not walking around 24/7 with a mirror in front of your face, so you can't always see how you're looking, you're reacting. You might have in your mind an intention of, this is how I intend to communicate this, and it may come off um, maybe a little more aggressive, or maybe sad, or maybe in a tone that you weren't intending. And so that's why it's good to talk to other people and get feedback on you and what they think, because they can give you a different perspective and a different lens that you don't already have about yourself. That's a very important trait. Now, when you do that, you have to also be mindful of not internalizing everything that people say about you, because there might not always be as accurate. So when you're getting feedback, get it from someone you trust, someone you respect, someone who provides that safe space for you, and that genuinely wants to see you succeed and win in life. I think that's the most important thing about when you are soliciting feedback from others. Then regularly reflect on your experiences, like constant reflection that helps build self-awareness, because you're always thinking about what you might have been able to do better, a better way to communicate something, a better way to regulate my feelings. I reflect daily, and I'm like, okay, I have a daughter, so and she's a toddler, so sometimes I have to look back and say, did I handle this situation the best when she did X, Y, and Z? How could I have done that better? How can I be better? If you stay in that mindset of reflection, it'll also keep you in a growth mindset. So the thing about having a growth mindset is making sure that you're able to continue to move forward in life. So when you're reflecting, you're thinking about ways you can be better, and that's a way of growing, that's a way of changing, that's a way of just learning more, right? Also, you can do journaling. Journaling is a good tip. I see a lot of youth doing that now as well. Just journaling, writing out their feelings, writing out what frustrated them today, and then reading it back over. That's also a form of reflection. You're reflecting on your day. You're seeing what might have triggered me, right? Because this is always about building that emotional intelligence. So what happened today that might have triggered me? What happened today? Why did I react that way when this was said to me? Is this something deeper, or did I now like the tone? It felt like a struggle in the power dynamics. It felt like someone was not being respectful of me. What was that particular reason why I reacted that way? And what did I exactly feel? So that's how you can build self-awareness for your emotional intelligence skills. The second thing is self-regulation. So that's controlling how you respond to your emotions. And as I said before, that reflecting everything that you reflect on when you are identifying what made you upset or what made you happy, you're identifying your triggers, okay? And you're identifying your emotional reactions. And once you're able to do that and you know that in your head, if you're faced with this situation again where someone says something that might trigger you in a negative or positive way, you understand that this is a particular trigger for me, and it may not be that what the person said or how it's said. It may be the fact that they're saying it that is triggering me, and to have this emotional response. So that's the important part about identifying triggers and why that's important in your self-regulation. Because once you realize, okay, this is a trigger that's kind of deeper with my own issues or things that I deal with, I'm not going to have an explosive reaction or aggressive reaction to this, because I know this person's intention is not to trigger me. I'm just triggered. So that helps with self-regulations, setting clear goals for yourself. When you are in the mindset of what you want to accomplish and what you want to do, and the impact that you want to have, it's easier to regulate yourself because you're focused on what it is and who it is that you want to be. So in relation with that, identifying triggers and setting that clear goals, it gives you that motivation you need to let things go if you need to. So if you are working towards a doctorate degree, or you're working towards high school graduation, or getting into a specific place, or you're working towards being the best mother you can be or father you can be, when you are thinking that and you set that clear goal of this is how I'm going to react to things, or this is how I'm going to reach this goal, once you are triggered, or once something does happen that makes you lose that control that you have over yourself, it will be always in the back of your mind reminding you of who you want to be. And that's a tool you can use to motivate and calm yourself down, or bring yourself to a more clearer mind and make the best decision for you. And then a very important thing about regulation is being flexible and being able to be adaptable. Everything is not always going to go your way. You're not in control of everyone. You are only in control of you. So when you have that flexibility and that adaptability, you are able to use those tools to remind yourself that you may not be in control of what someone else does or says, but you are in control of how you react and how you feel. Are you going to it's the cool thing that I always say to the youth I work with, is 5 minutes of discomfort worth 24 hours of your day? So if that 5 minutes of that situation that made you upset, or that 5 minutes of that situation that didn't go your way, and it takes your whole day, is it worth your whole day? The only thing we cannot buy is time. So we have to treat it as the precious commodity that it is. And we have to remind ourselves that I can't allow what others do or say, because I can't control them, affect me, but I can allow my reaction to be conducive to me and whomever else might be in my environment. So setting that clear goals, being adaptable, flexible, and understanding that everything isn't in your control, and then continuing those mindfulness activities that can help you build that self-regulation. Empathy. So understanding how others feel is also a core skill of emotional intelligence. So actively listening, and actively listening, it may be responding back to things they've said, asking questions about specific things that they've said, summarizing what they've said. This is also a good thing to use when you are resolving conflict, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But just showing that you are interested in what someone is saying will make a huge difference on how they interact with you, how they receive you, and how what they're willing to, you know, give to you, accept from you, all of that. What type of friend they're willing to be. If they feel like you are genuinely interested in them, it does help with you building that empathy because they'll want to share more, and they'll give you more information about how they feel and how in their perspective on things. And then you can take that and then use that tool. So when you are faced with new people or things you have never experienced before, you can pull back to experience. Well, I talked with such and such before, and they expressed how when they went through this, they felt this way. So let me make sure I'm dealing with this new person in a more sensitive, empathetic way because I know what they could possibly experience, right? That helps build empathy. You're basically putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's always a good way to put empathy because everyone goes through different things in life. None of us know exactly what each person goes through or even what you went through to even be on this call here today. Anything could have happened. So you have to lead with an empathetic mind, in order to make sure that you're being a good friend, a good family member, a good coworker, whomever that you may be in relation to that person that you care about, right? Um, so engage diverse media. So engage in different activities that expose you to diverse viewpoints and emotions. So that might be, I know there is a poverty simulation that is run by, I believe it's United Way. I may be wrong, so don't quote me on that, but I believe it's United Way that runs a poverty simulation that basically just helps you understand the outlook from other people. So look for opportunities like that that may be able to bring you into new experiences that otherwise you may not have experienced. Diversify your social media. You know, we all have algorithms that they give us on our social media platforms based on the things that we constantly look at and constantly like. Look at some other things. Search up something random one day just to make sure that you're not stuck in one little bubble of this is how the world is, and understanding that there's so many different points and perspectives and different people in the world. So diversifying your media, search up like gardening tools one day or something, just something out of the blue. And for also building empathy is also again that reflection, and reflection goes into all of these skills because again, I'm not going to beat it on the head, but reflection helps you look back and say, how can I have done better? And how might that person have felt in this situation when I said this or when I did that? Another core skill is social skills, which a lot of people don't know is an important part of being emotionally intelligent, is knowing how to communicate to someone that builds them up and doesn't break them down. So being aware of words that may trigger feelings, being aware of um, how your presence may affect someone else. I think that is a very important part of the social skills and building that social skills. So engaging in social activities and practicing verbal and nonverbal communication, making sure you're always in a space, again, like I said earlier, being that model of positivity and always in a space of bringing someone else up. And it doesn't mean that every day you're going to be happy and it's going to be rainbows and sunshines, but always making sure that you give to others what you would want from them. So if it is speaking positively, congratulating them, just being a listening ear, whatever that is, that can help build your social skills. So engaging in different social activities, and again, um, actively listening and practice the empathy. And just remember that this is a process. Like, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that's going to happen as you continue to practice and reflect and do all of these activities. But as long as you practice that self-reflection and you do your self-awareness and you are regulating your emotions and your empathy and social skills, you will build those emotional intelligence skills. So that is that. And this a tip: when your emotions are running high, I like to remember these 3 words, because sometimes your emotions are too high to remember a full blown out presentation that I'm presenting you today, right? So stop, think, plan. So stop what you are doing immediately, whether it's talking, whether it's texting, yelling, whatever it is that you might be doing when your emotions are running too high. Stop. Just stop. And then take the time to think. So you think about what the goal of the conversation was in the first place, right? I like to go into every conversation understanding that there is an outcome that I would like out of this, and what is the best way I can communicate this so I can get the outcome that I'm looking for, and that so both parties can also feel fulfilled from this conversation. So think about what the goal is, and remember that you are in control of you. So you are only in control of you. You cannot control what someone else says or does. And a good tool is to take 5 seconds for a deep breath. 5 seconds can feel longer than 5 seconds when you are in the heat of a moment and you need to take a breath. It can feel like 30. So just take that 5 seconds, stop, think, take that 5 seconds. What am I trying to get at? This isn't going the way I wanted to go. And then plan out how you want to move forward. What is the best decision that I can make to keep things from escalating even more? Is it best for me to walk away right now? Is it best for me to just say, okay, we'll revisit this conversation later because both of our emotions are high? What is the best decision for me at the time and for this person that I'm communicating with? So yes. So I have a little activity, which is just naming emotions. It's just a few scenarios that I have on here. And if you would be so kind to write in the chat what specific emotions you believe that person is experiencing in the scenario. So if you don't, it's okay. I have emotions already that I can say they're experiencing. So the first scenario, you ask your parents if you can go out with friends, but they say no without explaining why. So what specific emotions do we think this person may be experiencing right now after hearing that? Frustrated, yes. Yes, frustrated is a big one. I agree with that. I think frustrated, it goes along with feeling anger, yes, resentful. Yes, yes, yes. These are all great ones. Confusion. And I would also say, I didn't see this one, but singled out, yes. Misunderstood, sad, disappointed. Yes, yes. This is all of the things that they can be feeling or experiencing. And when you are feeling these things, I believe the emotional intelligence tools that I provided a little earlier of remembering that, you are only in control of what you can say and what you can do. You can't control what your parents or whomever your authority figure may be says about what you can and cannot do, but you can try to negotiate and talk with them and get them to understand why it's important for you to go out with your friends. And sometimes it may end up being just no, you're not going out with their friends, but understanding that sometimes you will not always get the outcome that you want. And regulating your emotions and understanding, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling misunderstood, confused, and singled out and disappointed. So I'm going to go do some things for me to make me feel better. You overhear your parents arguing in the other room. emotions may you feel after that? Did I do something? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Scared. Yes. Anxiety, fear, help. Yes. Worried. You all might not even have needed this. You know what emotional intelligence. You know you have the good, guilty. Yes, yes, absolutely. So those are all of the ones I had on there. And then you finally finish a big project you've been working on for weeks, and your family celebrates your hard work. How might the person feel? Proud, yes. Excited, yes, yes, yes. Accomplished is a good one as well. Yes. So you're excited. You put all this work in and somebody is recognizing your effort and what you did, and it feels amazing. So yes, and I don't know if I spoke to the overhearing your parents argue in the other room. That can be scary because again, like, you don't know what it's about. You don't know if it's about you. You can feel guilty, you can feel worried, and you just have to make sure again you're doing what you need to do to regulate yourself and your emotions and understanding that that's something that is out of your control. You accomplished a financial goal that you made 2 years ago. How will we feel about that? I will be overjoyed. I will be ecstatic. I will be yes, pride, relief, confidence. Yes, yes. I will feel like I'm ready to take on the world. Um especially accomplishing a financial goal right now with the climate of where things are. So I definitely agree with pride, relief, confidence, excitement. Yes. You see that a group of friends made plans and posted pictures, but they didn't invite you. How would we feel about that? Angry. For sure. Maybe even a little insecure, sad. Yes. A little jealous as well. Just left out overall. And those are they're real feelings, and it's okay to feel them. Um, it's okay to feel them, and that's what the main thing of emotional intelligence is about: is recognizing and knowing I feel this way. So maybe you might not. You might want to wait a day or two before you reach out to that friend because you know your emotions are high. You have a tough day at work, and when you come home, you must cook and clean for your family. Resentful, yes, resentful, stressed. I agree. Overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated. Um, yes, I agree with that one. All right. So thank you all for participating in that. I'm going to move right along to conflict resolution. So conflict resolution is the process of finding solutions and reaching agreements between parties in disagreement or dispute. It emphasizes finding mutual agreeable solutions that address the underlying issues and needs of all involved. So methods of conflict resolution is active listening, focusing on understanding the other party's perspective, um, empathy, recognizing and understanding the other party's feelings, mediation, using a neutral third party to facilitate a resolution, compromising, finding a middle ground where all parties agree to some degree, collaboration, working together to find solutions that benefit all parties. So those are all methods you can use to resolve conflict. Life, you are going to experience some form, shape of conflict in your life, probably for the rest of your life, because people are all different. We all have different perspective. We all have different ways of doing things. So there's going to be, when you have differences, there's going to be room for disagreements. So those are some methods you can use to resolve conflicts if you are faced with them. Healthy conflict resolution, steps to it. So you're in the heat of an argument. What do? You're not thinking of all these methods right now. You just need to figure out how to get through to this person and how to get to an agreeable state, right? So first, identifying the issue without blame and staying calm. The most important thing is to stay calm, to not let your emotions get too high, because once things get emotional, it gets harder to have rationale, right? So identifying the issue without blame. So it's not saying, well, when you did this, no, it's maybe these words made me feel this way, or I have felt like this when this occurred. You don't want to say you, because then that can automatically lead to a person becoming defensive. And once we get into a defensive state, it's harder to reason with and agreeable. You kind of just start to lash out a little bit. And it might not always look like a physical lash out. It could be more so shutting down, or just starting to use other words, or just not engage in the conversation in general. So active listening techniques for understanding different perspectives. So that is the second step to healthy conflict resolution. Active listening, using those techniques we talked about earlier, repeating back what you heard, making sure you're summarizing so you're not misunderstanding. So when you said this is what you meant, or am I understanding this correctly? So definitely making sure that, I think repeating back might be the most effective when you're in the middle of a conflict, just because you want them to make sure that you're understanding where they're coming from. And once you get to that feeling of understanding, it's easier to get to that feeling of agreeing to disagree, or whatever that may look like. I'm using I statements instead of accusatory language. So again, that goes back into identifying the issue without blame. Using I statements. I felt like this. I felt like that. Not saying you shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have done that, or you were wrong when you did this, or you were wrong when you did that. I did not like this. This made me feel this way. So using I statements, finding common ground and problem solving together. So after you use those I statements, you've identified the issue, you practice and repeat it back what you heard, you practice your active listening. What are we going to do now, right? What is going to make you feel good after walking away from this conversation, and me feel good from walking away from this conversation? Or is it best for us to both walk away right now and come back and talk about this later? So just finding that common ground, problem solving together. It'll also build up your relationship with that person. And it will build a sense of respect and trust amongst the two people involved, or the parties involved, because they know, okay, you respected me enough not to give aggressive behavior to me or treat me in a disrespectful way. So now when you do come back later after our emotions have come down, we might have a much more productive conversation than we would have had otherwise. So moving right along. So I just want to give some real life examples of basically utilizing all those tools I just gave to you, right? So the conflict is the parent and the teen disagree on curfew. So the wrong way for this to go down is the teen saying, you never let me do anything, you're so unfair. And the parent is, because I said so, end of discussion. That's the wrong way, because again, it's using that accusatory language that we talked about. It's not coming to a common ground. And again, there's no active listening in here. There's just end the discussion. That's what it is. So a good way using I statements in compromise. Will the team say, I feel frustrated when I have to come home earlier than my friends because I want to show you I'm responsible. Can we compromise? And then the parent saying, I understand you want more freedom. I just worry about your safety. How about we agree on 10 p.m. on weekends, but you check in every hour? That is a way to make sure everyone feels their feelings are validated, they are there, and everyone feels like they got what they needed out of the conversation. And in the end. So another one, argument between friends of conflict. Wrong way, you're so fake, you ditched me for them. Friend two, whatever, you're just being dramatic. So friend two is invalidating the friend one's feelings. Friend one is also calling names to the other friend and all of that. So the right way to do this will be using active listening and validating. So I felt hurt when you didn't include me in your plans because I value our friendship. I didn't mean to hurt you. Should have told you sooner. Next time, I'll make sure to include you. So that will be you're actively listening to what hurt them, and you validated their feelings, and you came to a compromise for that conflict resolution. So that is what I have on conflict resolution and emotional intelligence and violence and prevention. I do have another slide of just additional resources that we can use in general. I have some for teens and young adults. If you are a reader, I'm a big reader, so I always try to include books. If you are a reader like me, we have the Teens Guide to Social Skills, which helps teens navigate social interactions, manage emotions, and prevent conflicts. You have the Speak graphic novel, a powerful story about the impact of violence and the importance of finding your voice. Boundaries, when to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life. It teaches how to set healthy emotional and physical boundaries to prevent conflict. And then for parents and educators, raising an emotionally intelligent child. One of my favorites, a science-backed guide to helping kids build emotional intelligence. Mindset is the new psychology of success. It explains how a growth mindset can help kids and parents handle challenges positively. And then Unselfie, why empathetic kids succeed in our world, in our all about me world. And it focuses on how empathy can reduce violence and bullying among youth. And then apps. So if you're on the go and you don't have a book in front of you and you need to regulate your emotions, Headspace is a good app. It teaches mindfulness and emotional regulation for stress and anger management. Smiling Mind is a meditation app designed for young people to improve focus and self-awareness. Wobot is an AI-powered chatbot that helps teens recognize and manage their emotions. Breathe, Think, and Do with Sesame is for better for like younger toddler youth, but like I said, I have a toddler, and sometimes I do it with her. It's just such a good way to just learn about your emotions and regulate them as well. And then Rethink, it helps prevent cyberbullying by encouraging users to pause before sending hurtful messages. So yes, those are all the resources. And I will open the floor for any additional questions that we have or anything anyone wants to discuss.
Ty, that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for
you.
doing so. Does anybody have any questions of Ty?
How do you see technology impacting the ways conflicts are initiated and resolved among youth? And what strategies do you recommend for navigating these dynamics? Okay, sorry, I read it to myself. I'm going to read it out loud. How do you see technology impacting the way conflicts are initiated and resolved among youth? And what strategies do you recommend for navigating these digital dynamics? So for the first part of that question, I see technology impacting them. Sometimes it eggs them on in a sense. It makes them even more heated. They do, if they're, texting, tone is completely gone because you're, texting on the phone, you're not having a physical conversation with someone about your conflicts. If they are texting about someone else and then someone tells them that they were texting about it, I can see that conflicts that arise and that results just kind of like a he say, she say thing, like telephone. Also with the social media, posting things about each other or saying rude things about each other, that has been impacting conflicts as well and initiating conflicts as well. And what I do recommend for them is I typically try to, again, just allow my youth to understand that they can't control what other people do or say about them, and then building up that, again, emotional intelligence and their self-esteem overall is very instrumental in making sure you have a resilient person or resilient youth, just because once they have that resilience built, they're less likely to fall under the just the emotional roller coaster of social media and texting and talking behind my back. I think just keeping them aware of it and building that self-esteem. Also making sure that we're limiting, I don't want to say limiting the exposure, because I don't want you to feel like you need to monitor how much time they spend on their phones and things like that. If we're talking teens, they're going to spend more time than maybe myself would have or you have, as the parent or the caregiver or whomever you may be. But just making sure that you're building them up so they understand that their worth isn't based on what they see online or how many likes they get or how many comments they get on pictures or shares on their thoughts, that they are amazing, and they, like, self-esteem is the biggest part of this. Making sure that they feel good enough that when they do get into these situations, they feel confident enough in themselves to make the right decision of how to handle it.
Very good.
What strategy do you recommend to parents when they notice their child is struggling, especially when they feel their own emotional triggers being activated? I would definitely recommend to parents to practice that mindfulness, and reflection in general, because once you notice your own triggers emotionally, it will be easier for you to regulate and navigate them. So even when you're talking to your child, if something is said and it sends you off, stop, think, plan, right? Stop what you're doing immediately, then think about it and remind yourself you are in control of you and not what your child is saying or doing. And then remembering that your child is already struggling, right? So this result of this behavior or whatever it is that they're doing is not necessarily a result of what you're doing. It's a result of them already feeling like they're struggling or going through things. So just having a little bit of that more mature mindset of, let me stop, let me think about this, and let me plan what's the best action for us to move forward. And then the best thing is walk away. Sometimes, sometimes it's okay to just, I need to take a minute. I think we need to let our teens know we're humans too. So we get frustrated too. So I need to take a second so I can be the best parent I can be to you right now, because my emotions are not as regulated as I would like them to be while we're having this conversation. And if your child is struggling, again, encourage them to reflect, encourage them to journal, encourage them to talk, give them that safe space. Once they feel safe enough to communicate with you, they may even start communicating things you don't want them to be communicating anymore, but they will feel the ability to be honest with you, and then you'll be able to give them the tools that you have to navigate whatever it is that they're going through in life.
Ty, I'm going to throw a question at you, and I don't know if you have the answer because it's been debated in the literature, and I still
Okay.
get asked this question quite a bit. Do violent video games contribute to youth violence? We see so many kids, 73% of American kids 2
Mm-hmm.
through 17 played video games in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Some feel that these video games contribute to school shootings, increased bullying, violence
Mm-hmm.
towards women. Critics argue that these games desensitize players to violence, reward players for simulating violence, and teach children that violence is an acceptable way to resolve conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
There's other folks that say, no, 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 these studies are flawed. That's not true. It treats aggression, but not violence. What's your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on these?
So I believe that this particular topic isn't as exclusionary as we like to think, like video games equals violence. I think there is multiple contributing factors to what makes a person aggressive or makes a person violent. But I do think us having that exposure, or young people having that exposure to that violence, if they're not properly informed that this is a video game and not reality, they may, correlate that to real life. They may start to do the things that they see on the video games. So I agree, but I don't agree. If you get what I'm trying to say, like it is
Totally.
multiple,
Yes.
yeah, it's multiple factors, but the best thing we can do as parents in doing these video games is to inform them and let them understand. I'm not trying to dull your fun. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to do that, but I want you to understand that this is video games. And if these actions are performed in real life, there's real consequences that come with them and associate with them. And I mean, every kid is different. They're going to react differently. But I feel like the best thing we can do as parents is provide them with as much information we can so then they can make the best informed decisions for themselves. And as long as they can sleep at night with their decisions and we can sleep at night knowing we gave them all the tools, I think that that's the best way to kind of head that up. But just letting them know this is fake. This is not real life. This is reality. This is
I
what
don't
real
think
life
you could
is.
have answered that any better. That fabulous. Thank you for taking that question and answering it as you did. And thank you for presenting tonight. We really appreciate it. It was an excellent topic and an excellent presentation. So glad you joined us tonight, Ty. Thank you from the Medical
Thank
Society,
you.
from our folks here. So
Yes.
thank you all. I hope to see you all back. That concludes tonight's lecture. Let's see each other next Wednesday, March 19th at 6 p.m. We will address digital safety for families, trends and strategies, and it'll be presented by an acclaimed internet safety expert, Katie Greer. Katie leverages her extensive experiences with law enforcement to educate families on safe digital practices. So looking forward to that. Everyone, thanks for attending tonight. It's a beautiful day out there. You can still some time to get to it. Be safe and have a good evening. Thank you all. Ty, again, thank you again.